to live up to these very reasonable expectations will result in swift resumption of a non-sex situation.
Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to the channel if this is your first time. If it is your first time, then please have a little delve and see if you like what I do, and please subscribe if you really like it. If you are an old subscriber, old viewer, hello. Thank you for all the support over the time, and I really appreciate it. And thank you for your friendship if we've become friends, which happens on here, which is awesome. Okay, so this video is a video that's like a precursor to a big top 50 list that I'm going to do, which are my top 50 science fiction books. So as you probably know, if you've seen this channel before, I am hugely into science fiction. It's my favourite genre of reading, but it's also something that I just think about all the time with my films and TV as well. And it's been a mainstay in my life since I was a kid. So I first started reading science fiction when I first started reading voluntarily, which was like when I was about 11. And I've been reading science fiction ever since. So I've read many books over the years. And I've read some of the classics, and I've read some of the obscure stuff. And to be fair, my favourites are not always the classics, and sometimes they're the obscure stuff. So a year ago, last November, I did a list of my top 10 science fiction novels, or science fiction books. Not sure if they were just novels or not. I can't remember what I wrote. I think they were just novels. But I will include collections, short story collections, in my top 50, because for me, that's acknowledging the fact that science fiction was built on short stories. The science fiction was created really through the magazines, and they were full of these short stories, and a lot of the big names started out as short story writers. And there's two people in particular, Harlan Ellison and Ted Chiang, who are either exclusively known for short stories, with the example of Ted Chiang, or mostly known for short stories like Harlan Ellison. So I feel like it would be ridiculous to leave them out, because I love them so much. So I need to put them in, and therefore I need to put a short story collection in there. So I will be doing that. But in the meantime, I felt like I needed to read some stuff before I did my top 50. So there's a few gaps, some things that I feel like they could be contenders in the top 50. All right. So there are some gaps that I'm just ignoring. So I haven't actually read Stranger in a Strange Land. I've read other things by Heinlein, and I didn't like him that much. So I haven't read Stranger in a Strange Land, which is apparently massively outdated and enormous. But some people still love it. Absolutely get it. And it's a very important work, I get that. But that's the point, really, that my top 10 and my top 50 are not going to be what are the most important science fiction books of all time. They are what are my favourites. What are the things that I get excited about talking about? What are the ones that I get excited about thinking about? What are the things I might want to read again? You know, that kind of thing. And I do actually have a reread in this batch. So I'm going to start off by mentioning something that I didn't finish, that I need to read, and then one that's a reread, and then the other 13, because there's going to be 15 books I'm talking about, the other 13 are books I haven't read. All right, so these are books I'm going to read before I decide what my top 50 science fiction books are. So looking at the 15, thinking about my schedule for the next couple of months, I'm guessing this is a little project for the first couple of months of the year, next year. So it'll be sometime in spring that you'll see this list appear, if you're interested. So the first book that I need to finish is Project Hail Mary. I was a little bit like surprised that this didn't hit me, and I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting to really enjoy You, and it didn't happen. So I stopped, and I thought it was me. So I'm going to read it again in a different headspace. I was reading it while I was in New Orleans, and I think I was so distracted I couldn't. It wasn't going in. So I'm going to try and read this again, see what I think, and see if I can join everybody else saying it's brilliant. I really like the way Andy Weir writes, so I just thought it was weird that I didn't really get into it. So Andy Weir's Project Hail Mary. This one is a reread. So I read Dune by Frank Herbert back in the 90s when I was a teenager. So early, a teenager. I can't remember what year it was I read it, but I was very young, and so yeah, it could be late 80s actually. And yeah, it was 80. Yeah, it was around the time I was at college, so it would have been 88ish. And I enjoyed it, but I've got no idea where to put it in my top 50 because I can't remember how much I loved it. So I need to reread it, and I think it'll be a different experiencing reading it now as an older Gareth. So yeah, Dune by Frank Herbert. That's gonna be reread before I do this list, and then the rest of them are books I haven't read. So. The Wilson Tucker, the Lincoln Hunters. I feel like this is my kind of book. So clearly, it's not going to be in many lists of the top 50. It's a little bit obscure. But when I heard about it, I thought, oh, I've got to get this. And I got it. And I'm really looking forward to reading it. It's a time travel story about these guys that go back in time to find this lost speech by Lincoln. And it all goes wrong. Time travel, when it all goes wrong. Love it. So I'm going to read that to see if that's a contender. This one is one that's hard science fiction, very steeped in physics, I think. But I've heard, I do like the premise, and I've heard lots of people rave about it, and I want to give it a go. So Greg Bear's Blood Music. I feel like I should read this before making my list. So tell me if you've read Greg Bear's Blood Music. I haven't actually read anything by Greg Bear, so this will be the first one. But this is his most famous piece of work. And you can tell I bought this in Bognor because it's got that sticker that you can never get off without ripping half the book off. So that's a bit annoying. But yeah, Blood Music by Greg Bear. Let me know if you've read that. This is one that I'm so surprised I haven't read this yet. I keep picking it up and I haven't read it yet. And I've had it a while. It's part of the SF Masterworks. It's Kate Wilhelm. And it's Where Late the Sweet Bird Sang. It's a dystopian novel. And I think it's either dystopian or post-apocalyptic. Oh no, it might be. Oh yes, it looks more like a post-apocalyptic, like drought and floods and plagues. So it's I think this is more about like the result of ecological disaster. So more post-apocalyptic than dystopian. But yeah, Where Late the Sweet Bird Sang is definitely one that I want to read. I'm expecting to like that one. This is definitely post-apocalyptic because I heard a little bit about it. And it's got an awesome cover. I absolutely love the cover. But it's one that I feel like I'm very intrigued by because this is an author that writes lots of other things as well. And this is his most famous science fiction book. And that's Neville Shute and On the Beach. So I want to read this before I do my big list. So tell me if you've read On the Beach. But I'm kind of thinking actually that it might be a little bit like reading this. I'm totally judging it by the pedigree, if that's the right word, of the author that some of the stuff that they've written. It might feel like when I read P.D. James's Children of Men. And I was disappointed by that. Hopefully I won't be disappointed by this, but I don't really like the way that P.D. James wrote. So she's most famous for crime books, but when I read Children of Men, it was because I wanted to read it because I love the film so much. And oh my God, it's so different to the film. But I didn't really like the way she wrote either. But hopefully this has got nothing to do with that. And there are literally no reasons for a comparison. So On the Beach, Neville Shute is definitely one I want to read. This is a book that is very intriguing and it's probably one of those books you either love it or you hate it. So over here in the UK we call that a Marmite thing. It's probably a Marmite book because Marmite is infamously something you either love or you hate. I'm somewhere in the middle with Marmite, so clearly I'm just bucking the trend like crazy here. But anyway, this book is definitely intriguing and it's got a huge reputation, and that's Jeff Noon's Vert. So I bought this 30th anniversary edition from Forbidden Planet and got very excited about it, but I haven't read it yet. And it's got loads of blurbs on the back. It's not got a plot, but it does say, by William Gibson, I remember my sharp delight in 1993 on first discovering Vert's hallucinogenic VR-induced Manchester. It instantly became one of my favourite examples of new directions in science fiction, and remains so 3 decades later. So yeah, intriguing, very intriguing. This is one that this is an author I've read some stuff by already, but I haven't read this one, and this is one that I'm really intrigued by, and I love the fact I've got this little Ace corgi kind of thing, an Ace book version. It's a really tiny book. It's lovely. That's Dream Master by Roger Lasney. So yeah, I do like Roger Lasney, even though I did just say that Roadworks was terrible. I didn't like that, but I like some other things. His short stories are really good, and I read some other things that I liked. But Dream Master is one I definitely want to read before I do my list, and this is about manipulating dreams, which I always think is a nice premise for a story. This is one that I've heard so much about, and I bought it and the second one in the series because I thought I'd like it, but I haven't got around to it yet, so I want to read this before I do my list, and that's Anne Leckie's Ancillary Justice. So this is, it's got loads of awards, but it's a kind of military sci-fi thing, I think, yeah, it's the only novel to have won all of science fiction's most prestigious awards, and marks the debut of a bold new voice in the genre. Yeah. There we go. So, Ancillary Justice is another one. This is one that I saw, what was it? Better Than... No, who is it I saw speak about this? Might have been Better Than Food, who's really good, interesting book reviewer. But anyway, this is a book that was part of this recent Penguin reissue batch. They included 2 Robert Sheckley books, and it's by Anna Kavan. It's called Ice, and apparently it's quite eerie. It's very atmospheric. It's quite different, and kind of, I'd say, unique by the sound of it. But I haven't read it yet. Very intrigued. I'm hoping I'd like it. It could be just an exercise in atmosphere, which might not massively be a thing for me, but I'm really intrigued. So Anna Kavan's Ice, let me know if you've read it. I'll read a little bit at the back, actually. Set in a frozen world that is gradually being devastated by ever-encroaching ice, Anna Kavan's masterwork follows one man's pursuit of a mysterious silver-haired girl to the ends of the earth and to the end of everything. A brutal novel of a frozen post-nuclear dystopia. Just the most magnificent book. Hugely enigmatic. A genuine novel of the unconscious and a masterpiece. So yeah, I do want to read this because, if I connect to it, clearly it's going to be one of those books. If you really connect to it, you'd love it. So it will be in my top 50 probably if I do like it. This is 2 books by one author that I went a bit mad, and I bought tons and tons of stuff by him. I had this period of a few months I kept buying stuff by him, and most of the top shelf is his stuff. And I've read some of his stuff, but I still haven't read, by J.G. Ballard, The Drowned World. So I definitely want to read that, and The Drought. So clearly 2 very different approaches to cli-fi, but he's one of the big names in climate science fiction. And The Drowned World. I think The Drowned World more than Drought, but I do want to read these. And I do like J.G. Ballard's stuff. Okay, next one is... I really should have read this by now. I've read other books by Alistair Reynolds, but I haven't read the big one, and that's Revelation Space. So this is big in size, but it's huge in reputation. This is the big one that kind of... you'll in general, if there's going to be a bookshop with one of his books in it, it's going to be Revelation Space. It's definitely the most stocked book of his catalogue. I've got The House of Suns as well, which is apparently really good. I've got a bunch of his books I haven't read, actually, to be fair. But I've read 5 of his books and really like them. But I haven't read Revelation Space yet. So I need to do that. So let me know if you think I'd like that, or if you think, I don't know if that's Gareth's kind of thing. But I don't know. This one is this is funny because this is the man, one of the most revered and acclaimed authors in science fiction, Isaac Asimov. And I read Isaac Asimov when I was younger, didn't like the way he wrote, so it kind of put me off as far as my later years. I haven't read any Asimov for years, but I'm thinking I don't want to do this list without reading iRobot. So I'm going to read iRobot, and I've read some of it actually. So some of it will be a reread, but it was so long ago. It was definitely in the 80s when I was a teenager. So I'm going to read iRobot to see if I like it different this year. This year, next year. See if I like it different at this age, and see how it speaks to me. And then one last one, which is completely up my street, and I expect that I'm really going to enjoy it, but I still haven't got around to reading it. I saw it on Goodreads, and then I thought I'm going to order that because that looks like my kind of thing. And it's Waypoint Kangaroo by Curtis C. Chen. So it's apparently a fast-paced thriller about alternate realities, which is also it's how you can describe dark matter, which is definitely in my top 10. But this is a few years ago. This is I wonder if it couldn't have been an influence, could it? What year was it came out? I know this came out the same year as Dark Matter anyway. So anyway, Waypoint Kangaroo, definitely want to read that as part of my preparation, my countdown to the countdown. Countdown to the countdown. Let's make sure I can keep the books in good condition. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you think about those books. Let me know if there's other things that you think, hey, what about this book? Have you read this one? What about that one? Have you read that one? And yeah, I might have read it, but who knows? Maybe I haven't read it and I go, oh, yeah, I could include that one. But yeah, this is something I'm expecting to do in kind of springtime, maybe around April time. Maybe I'll post it as I'm holidaying in Croatia. I don't know. I'm looking forward to that. But anyway, waffle. Thank you for watching, everybody, and stay curious.
Paint me a picture of what it's like to be